Hi, it's Elaine with MCPS Technology. Today we're going to check out a tool called Google Public Data Explorer. Now before you cringe, I think you're going to like this site. So I wouldn't characterize myself as someone who really gets into, data. But this site makes it accessible, visually pleasing, and easy to share. And as educators, that can make our life easier. And who couldn't use some more easy in your job, right? So hang with me, okay? I promise it's going to be great. So we're just going to type in into the Omnibox Google Public Data Explorer. And then we'll click on the link and it will take us to the site. Once you reach the site, you'll see that there's an example, a visual example to help you explore the site. We're going to go through that in just a minute. There's actually several examples. We're going to look at just one. But I'd like to point out a couple of other things about the site. So we're dealing with public data, and that means research done by public institutions like the U.S. Census Bureau, like governments, and that sort of thing. So as you can see right now, there are 104 data providers that are featured in this site. And you can, look at them separately, or you can simply collect data from any provider, which is what is highlighted at this moment. Down below the example, you can see it's like a search engine in that there are several pages of research studies that are featured here, and you can click on any of these and just go with it that way. However, you can also search public data, and we're going to talk about that some more in just a few minutes. So let's look at an example, and that will help you see how that you can sort of break down the data once you find it, and it makes it easier to share. These dots here represent different studies. So there's several that you can check out on your own. We're just going to click on the first one, which happens to be about life expectancy and fertility rate. So if I click on Explore the Data, what that does is it brings up the data in a larger screen, and right now it's showing me a bubble graph. Okay, so if you look in the top right, you can see that there are 4 different ways that you can view data. And depending on the type of data you're looking at, you might want to choose a different kind of graph. In this case, a bubble is probably the best one. Check out the y-axis, which is the vertical. Okay, the y-axis has to do with fertility rate. And the x-axis, which is always the horizontal, this has to do with life expectancy in years. In this case, the bubbles represent countries. So if I hover over a bubble, I can see this one is Nigeria. This big one is India. So the size of the bubble represents the overall population of the country, and you can see that over on the right. It tells the overall population when I hover. The color of the bubble, according to this legend, represents the region where the country is located. Now, if you notice below our x-axis, you can see a range of time. So watch what happens when I click this little arrow, which will follow the fertility rate and life expectancy over time. Notice there's a lot of movement here in the rates. And so you can see that the fertility rate over time is coming down and the life expectancy is getting greater. And so here's where we ended up in 2014. Now I can break this down further in many ways. This tutorial is just a brief overview. So I really encourage you to come into this site and just play. But I just want to show you a couple of other things that you can do while you're in this site. Let's say I just want to look at Afghanistan. So if I come over here to the left and I put a check in the box by Afghanistan, it will point out to me which bubble is Afghanistan. But if I want to make all these other bubbles go away, one of the ways I can do that is over here under the gear. Now you know Google well enough by now to know that a gear means there's more. Okay, so if I click on the down arrow, right now it's instructed to show non-selected bubbles, but if I click that, it will make all the bubbles go away except for Afghanistan. And so I can see by looking at this where the life expectancy, 60.4 years, and the fertility rate stands for Afghanistan. If I want to see that over time, I can simply click the arrow and watch as the life expectancy in Afghanistan actually moves. So that's interesting. Now, if I want to bring all my countries back, I simply go back and click on Show Non-Selected Bubbles. Everything goes back where it's supposed to be. So if I want to know the fertility rate and the specific life expectancy for a country, I simply hover over India, life expectancy 68 and fertility rate 2.43. China 75.8 and a 1.56 fertility rate. And so there are tons of things that you can do. And like I said, I encourage you to come into the site and just play with it. You can't break it. And you'll discover all sorts of neat ways to look at data. Over here, there's tons of different indicators. For example, environmental indicators that you can explore. So we're not going to take the time to click on all of those, but I just wanted you to know that you don't have to be, you don't have to have anxiety about data, because you really cannot mess this up, I promise. Now, if I want to go back to the public data site, I simply click on public data. So I just want to show you how you could search something out if you wanted to on the site. Let's say I'm teaching something that involves the study of unemployment. So if I just type in unemployment and click enter, it's going to show me several sources that I can get data from. So let's just check out the unemployment rate for the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. That should be interesting. So when I click on that, notice that it shows me the unemployment rate all the way from 1950 up to 2015. And I can see that it has spikes here, and if I hover over it, it shows me the year and the percentage. And I could use something like this to introduce a lesson or to enhance a lesson. Or students could study this as part of their research or to write word problems, or all kinds of possibilities are there. But let's say I wanted to compare the overall national unemployment rate to the state of Virginia, for example. I can check the box that says Virginia, if I can locate it. There it is. And watch what happens to the graph. So when I click on Virginia, I get from the year 1990 up to 2015, I can see that I can compare unemployment in the state of Virginia to the overall unemployment rate of the U.S. And I can see that we have been under the national average for unemployment, which is actually a really good thing. So every time there's been a rise in unemployment, it's pretty much happened in Virginia as well, but we've stayed below the national unemployment rate. So that's kind of good. You can see that how interesting that is. So check this out. I can also share this as a link. If I go up to the top right here and click this, notice that I can paste this link. It even shows me the embed code that I could put this in a website if I work with HTML. But I could share this link in, say, Google Classroom, or a student could share this link as part of an assignment. Those, again, lots of possibilities here. So, like I said earlier, I hope that you'll just come into this site and explore it, because there's so much information here, and I'm hoping that this will alleviate any anxiety you have about studying data. Talk to you soon.